ground you have crossed, and accepted that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you'd better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing.
Writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, keep your eyes alive, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin. There's no telling who that is naming. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing.
Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There's a battle outside, and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing.
Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out on the new one if you can lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing.
The line is drawn, the curse is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing. For the times they are a-changing.
Welcome to the First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation of humanists, theists, atheists, agnostics, and interfaith families. We are a proud LGBTQ welcoming congregation, climate justice seeking green sanctuary, level 2 supporting congregation for immigration justice, and 8th principle congregation striving to dismantle racism and other oppressions and build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. Whoever you are, wherever your background, and wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. My name's Tracy Zinner, and my husband Darren and our 2 children have been coming to First Parish for about 14 years, so it's been a long time. This is our Reproductive Justice Sunday. When I look back to the past year, even though we saw it coming, in June, when the Dobbs decision came through the Supreme Court and Roe was overturned, it felt like a gut punch. I still had some degree of dismay, shock, grief, that people who can become pregnant do not have the same rights, autonomy, self-determination, and value in areas of this country as a potential life. When I was processing that grief and thinking about what that meant, not only from a reproductive rights standpoint, but from a reproductive justice standpoint, that we are dialed back 50 years and we are in the same place that people of privilege, oftentimes white, wealthy, well-supported people can find access to safe care. People who do not have financial support or family support, people who are oftentimes folks of color, people who have abusers in their lives, those are the people who won't have access to reproductive care. So that anger and frustration is motivating. And when you look around our justice community, we fight injustice. And with a little prompting from Reverend Katie on the Social Action Committee, I reached out to people that I knew were like-minded in this congregation to help form a reproductive justice task force. So to let you all know, we exist. We meet the second Tuesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and our goal is education, advocacy, and fundraising surrounding reproductive justice. So if you are interested, shoot me an email. I'll send you the link, or if there's information you all have about rallies or important things going on, make sure, send us the information. We'll distribute it out to the community. So to return to our welcome, our congregation is offering worship and programming with in-person, hybrid, and online gatherings. You can learn more about all that's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, or by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Our order of service is online too, at the QR code in your pews and at the website uuneedham.updates.church. For all Zoom links and the most up-to-date information, please sign up for our weekly email newsletter by going to our website and clicking Get Involved newsletter, or sending your request to office@uuneedham.org. Welcome again to everyone, here in the building and online. Good morning.
As we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we read opening words from non-binary Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Elizabeth Mount. To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate. All these are our birthright. As we are created, so may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that chance from any person without their permission would be a violent act, a cutting off of life itself. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent. These too are our birthright. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there cannot be a trustworthy yes. Today, we come into this holy place and time, ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community once again. This too is a choice. You cannot, you may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or with one another. You are invited to join, and I respect it if you will not today or ever. More sacred than any other individual need is choice. The right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for, what you need, to stretch when you can, to pause when you will, to know your body, your mind, your spirit better than anyone else, and ultimately to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. Our opening hymn, Answering the Call of Love, was originally named Standing on the Side of Love. The composer, UU musician Jason Shelton, was inspired by a marriage equality statement issued by Black UU minister and former denominational president Bill Sinkford. Shelton rewrote the lyrics to the chorus and renamed the hymn in response to inclusion concerns from UU disability activists. As we continue in our national denomination's annual 30 Days of Love program with a special focus this week on LGBTQ+ gender and reproductive justice, please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Answering the Call of Love. The updated lyrics are in your orders of service.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of a congregation strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Whether we participate in our community online or in the building, we strive to live these promises every day. Please say along with me the words of our First Parish Covenant as in your orders of service. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This Sunday, as we talk about reproductive justice, we also mark the Lunar New Year. It is the year of the rabbit. It is not Easter, I promise. Someone this morning did say, it's not Easter, is it? No, it is not. It is the year of the rabbit in the lunar calendar. This is also often called interchangeably the Chinese zodiac or the Chinese New Year, in addition to the Lunar New Year. But the reality is many countries celebrate the Lunar New Year in a variety of ways. But today, I am going to share with you a story of the origin of the Chinese zodiac in many areas of China. Now, keep in mind, this is a folk tale, so it does change from place to place and is different here or there. So if you've heard it differently or might understand it in a different way, that's fine too. So, the story of the Chinese zodiac happens because of the Jade Emperor. It is said that he called a race for all of the animals on his birthday to create the Chinese zodiac via a great race. He wanted to make sure we had a way to mark time, so it seemed appropriate that with each year it would be named after a different creature. He decided on this race that the 12 animals, when they arrived in order, that would be the order of the progression of the years. So now, according to this myth, originally there was a cat and a rat who hated each other with a passion, but they were once friends. This is hard to believe, but they were at one point. Both of them wanted to cross the raging river rapid that stood between them and the end of the race so that they could get to the top of the Chinese zodiac. They were neither good swimmers, but they were very smart. So they rode on the back of the ox to cross the river. But then the rat pushed the cat off. The cat never forgave the rat, and the cat is not a part of the Chinese zodiac. There are some sore feelings there, I hear. But as the ox carried the rat across the raging river, the rat jumped, getting to the other side first. Thus, the Chinese zodiac begins with the year of the rat. The animals continued on after the ox made it to shore, and the rat, there came a loud thumping sound. It was the rabbit. It was jumping from one stone to another, and then it slipped, unfortunately, but it grabbed onto a log and made it over for 4th place. In 5th place was the dragon. Everyone thought the dragon would come in first because it could fly, but it told the Jade Emperor that it had to stop a couple of times to help some villagers. So then, along the way, after the dragon, came the horse galloping towards the finish line, but the sneaky snake was hiding behind the horse's foot and suddenly appeared, scaring the horse and sneaking in next. So after that, the horse, then the monkey, the rooster, and the sheep, who, unlike the previous animals, had actually helped one another. The rooster had found a raft, the monkey and the sheep hopped on. Working hard together through the currents and the weeds, they reached the shore. The sheep came in 8th, the monkey 9th, and the rooster in 10th. In 11th place was the dog. Even though it was a great swimmer, he was late. He told the emperor he needed a bath and just couldn't resist the cool, refreshing water. The emperor was actually about to close the race when the pig finally sauntered up, having had a snack and a nap. And so that is how the Chinese zodiac goes, in that order of animals continuing on and on. Each of these zodiacs, each of these animals is said to represent something about the people born in that time. So I encourage you to think, which animal are you? How are you competitive? How do you help? How do you connect with one another? What old disagreements should you maybe put aside? I welcome you to this, again, new year to contemplate who you are and who you are in community. Thank you all.
As our children and their leaders follow Sarah Elizabeth to their religious exploration opportunities, please join in singing Long Time Son as printed in your orders of service.
May
This is the time in our worship service when we share joys and concerns that are very close to our hearts and to our lives. Our ministerial intern, Dara Bryans, is receiving pre-submitted candles at internminister@uuneedham.org by the Thursday before the service at midnight. If you're watching on Zoom or YouTube, you may type your candle into the chat box to be held by the community watching the service with you today. And as our services stream to YouTube, we cannot guarantee that your joys, concerns, sorrows, and milestones will stay within the First Parish community. So you are always welcome to reach out to me, to Dara, or to the Pastoral Care Associate of the Week, Buffy Dewig, for pastoral care or to share more privately. Our pre-submitted candle this morning comes from our staff member, Tom Pugh. He offers a candle in memory and mourning of Jordan Barak, 23 years old, singer-songwriter and beloved son of Adina and Arnie, and a plugged-in band student. And now, if you're here in the building and have a joy or concern to share, please come forward, light a candle, then state your name, your pronouns, and briefly describe what is on your heart.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Goldberg. My pronouns are she, her. I'm lighting a candle this morning of gratitude. My husband and I miraculously walked away from a serious car crash on Friday night that totaled our car, but we all walked away uninjured. So I'm feeling so grateful and happy to be here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Katrina Kipp, and I'm a member of the Green Congregation Committee, and I want to light a candle of joy and thanks to the congregation for all your wonderful donations for our cookware collection that we've been running for the last 3 weeks for Welcome Home Newton. We've got at least 10 boxes full of dishes, pots and pans, casseroles, all kinds of wonderful things that will certainly be great, enable a lot of families to start up their new apartments, whether they be immigrants or former homeless or women from battered backgrounds. Anyway, thank you so much for all of that. It's just been really heartwarming to see all the great things people have donated. And then I also want to light a candle of concern. A very close cousin of mine passed away Friday at 88. And I had actually been her flower girl in her wedding 61 years ago. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail Lehman, and I'm lighting, Shirley Pratt asked me to light a candle. She was in intensive care for 9 days recently. She's out of intensive care, still in the hospital, but waiting for rehab. And she's doing okay right now.
Good morning, Susan Community. I mentioned a few weeks ago that my brother was going to have major surgery, but it got postponed because his doctor had COVID. Anyway, it's scheduled for Tuesday. Obviously, we're all nervous about it. Possibility that he doesn't make it through. But anyway, it's scheduled, and that's a good feeling. Just get it done and see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Good morning. My name is Marcy Hebert Macaro, she, her, hers, and I'm lighting a candle of concern for all kids and teens who are struggling with mental health challenges.
And now for all the joys and sorrows that we still hold in our hearts, and for the prayers of our neighbors and friends, we light a final silent candle. May the peace of this sanctuary be felt too wherever you are participating from, as we remember that even though we are worshiping in different places and different times, we are still deeply connected. Before we conclude our candle lighting this morning, I offer you a brief ritual for reproductive choice, adapted from Euro-American UU minister Reverend Julia Hamilton. The congregation, both in the building and online, is invited to participate by responding with the response listed in your orders of service. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. Let us begin. This sanctuary without walls we create together is a container for all our stories, the ones we share and the ones we hold close and quiet in our hearts, the ones that bring us joy and fulfillment and the ones that break us open, the ones that change and grow with us and the ones we outgrow and leave behind. Each and every one of you carries a lifetime of stories every time you participate in worship. This morning, as we honor reproductive choice, I would like to invite you into a ritual to hold space for your story, whatever it may be. And if you need support after this ritual and service, do not hesitate to reach out to me, Dara, or one of our pastoral care associates. As I light a series of candles for our different stories, if you recognize yourself or a loved one in one of these prayers, I invite you to put your hand over your heart, wherever you are, and know that you are not alone. There is surely someone in this gathered community holding their hand over their heart, too. I light the first candle for those whose story includes the choice to end a pregnancy. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but each and every end is also a beginning. And so I light this candle for all who have aborted a pregnancy or journeyed with someone in a termination, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. Please say with me the congregational response. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the second candle for those whose stories include the unwanted loss of a pregnancy or a struggle with fertility. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the pain of infertility, miscarriage, and stillbirth are too often silenced with stigma. So I light this candle for all who have traveled this path of loss for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. Together let us say, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the third candle for those whose story includes the choice to bring a child into the world. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the choice to bring a new life into the world is a brave one. And so I light this candle for all who have given birth or partnered in a birth, and those who have adopted a child birthed by someone else, and those who have offered a child they birthed to be parented by someone else, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. Let us say together, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the fourth candle for those whose story includes the choice not to conceive or have children, whether for now or for forever. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the freedom to chart the course of our own reproductive life is sacred. I light this candle for all who have made the decision not to conceive or bear children for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. Let us say, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the fifth candle for those whose story includes a forced choice or no choice at all, or who have encountered violence and shame where there should have been tenderness and care. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but not everyone has been honored with reproductive choice. We especially hold in our hearts those living in states and nations where reproductive choice and abortion access are banned or severely limited. I light this candle for all who have found themselves unable to exercise their own sacred reproductive freedom for whatever reason and under whatever circumstance. Let us say, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the sixth candle for those who experience severe health complications or death due to pregnancy. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but pregnancy can be medically risky, and limited legal access to reproductive choice can be deadly. I light this candle for all who have suffered the after effects of difficult pregnancies and all who are grieving a loved one who died due to complications from carrying a pregnancy, aborting a pregnancy, or birthing, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. And let us say, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the seventh and final candle for those whose reproductive story is still being written. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the future unfolds in surprising and unexpected ways that can be both beautiful and heartbreaking. And so I light this candle for all who are at the threshold, who have complex choices still to make about their reproductive lives, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. Let us say one last time together, may the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. May the flames of these candles and the many stories they represent remind us to answer the call of love, to ensure that all people have freedom and agency over their reproductive choices, and that reproductive justice is upheld as a fundamental right now and for future generations. Amen. As we hold our congregation's joys, concerns, and stories in our hearts and reflect on the 50th anniversary of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, we pray together these words about bodily autonomy from Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Laura Horton Ludwig. Take a moment to breathe into the silence. Our breath is always with us. We can come back to the breath, our anchor, our grounding, our freedom. Spirit of life and love, we are here not just minds and hearts, but bodies too. We human beings, spirit and body joined together. On this day, we send out a prayer or a wish that every person, every being may be safe and well in body and in spirit. May every person be well, and may we treat every person with respect and kindness and love. On this day when we consider the connections between our bodies and spirits, we lift up our hope and aspiration that all people will live in freedom, to give and guard their bodies as seems best to them, and to exercise their own powers of moral discernment around fertility and creative potential. May we remember that it is especially challenging for those who are living in poverty to exercise these rights, and may our society support them in every way possible. And we say a special prayer for all those who have experienced violence or abuse or any other form of damage to their being, which is so precious. May they know safety and healing. May every being be safe and well in body and in spirit. May every person be well, and may we be vessels of compassion for everyone we meet. Amen. Please remain seated and join in singing our meditative response, Voice Still and Small, twice through. The lyrics are in your orders of service and at 391 in your gray hymnals. This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of the church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. For our special Reproductive Justice Sunday service, our entire offering will go to Sister Song. Sister Song is a Southern-based national membership organization founded in 1997 by 16 organizations of women of color from 4 mini-communities: Native American, African American, Latina, and Asian American. They recognized that they had the right and responsibility to represent themselves and their communities. Sister Song's purpose is to build an effective network of individuals and organizations to improve institutional policies and systems that impact the reproductive lives of marginalized communities. Our national denomination, the Unitarian Universalist Association, is a formal partner with Sister Song for reproductive justice advocacy. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 methods that are described in your orders of service, with text to give, donating at our website, dropping a check or cash into the offering plate, or mailing it to the church. In whichever way you donate, remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the plate collection or your annual pledge. And many thanks as well to Barbara Ridge for her beautiful flowers this morning, in memory of her husband and our member of blessed memory, Scott Muldoon, on his birthday. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. May the ushers please come forward.
Our readings this morning are poems from the collection Poetry for Sexual and Reproductive Justice, published by the English global advocacy organization Sexual and Reproductive Health Matters. Our first poem is My Body is My Soul by Bangladeshi Dutch poet and environmentalist Mahmouda Rahman. For decades, for centuries and more, you call me the Holy Mother or call me the whore. You think I am a property to buy and sell, like a cow or a camel or a piece of land. And you secure me with shackles or a wedding band. Never occurred to you that my body is my soul, just like yours, and I have a role to decide and determine what I want to be. My body, my soul, and just be me. You are alarmed by my autonomy. You censor my senses. You cut me and bruise me, put me under your lenses. That little transparent box in your head, you want me to reside there like a shred. My body is my soul. It's not for you to trade. I am growing out of your box to fly, to explore, to pervade. Never occurred to you that souls can defy cages, confines, containers, no matter how hard you try. My soul spreads her wings with my body in her hand. Hear what she says and try to understand. Not a mother, not a mistress, not a piece of land.
Our second poem is This Poem Is Like Me by bisexual Costa Rican artivist Jimena Cascante Matamoros. I just want to start by saying that mine is not the voice for which this poem is written, but I will do my best. This poem is meant to be read out loud by shy voices with broken accents glued together by a loving community. This poem is like me, like my body, a bunch of parts that are not mine. My body, my choice. I chant it, I feel it, I dance with it. but my body does not belong to me. My body is full of wounds, my ancestors, my own, my sisters. My body has been torn apart by a stolen past and an uncertain future. My body is not my choice, and yet it's everyone's opinion that I hear voiced. My body is filled with rage. It's a full dark stage. It's a wide embrace. My body is a broken promise. I hear them say, "You are the future," yet wait, not quite, young girl. My body takes up all the space that your hate creates. My body will not apologize for breaking the chain, for escaping from your jail, for stepping on your disdain.
Our third and final poem is titled Well-Being by French-American public health professional Alice de Beauvau. I am blessed and sacred to be capable of creating miracles that outlive me. But I am also a soul who seeks discovery, pleasure, and glee. I am strong, but vulnerable whilst living within institutions built by men who believe that the beat of my heart isn't as important as that of a group of cells. I fight for reproductive justice for when my body follows instructions, but my soul desires freedom and my world is put at risk, I can keep a hold of the reins and preserve my own health. Because my well-being goes beyond that of a choice, it spans throughout the community that is my sanctuary, the spirituality that is my strength, and the access to economic and political security. My independence is what allows me to fly. My body is what allows me to thrive. Reproductive justice is what enables me to live, because abortion is self-care.
Many thanks to these members of our Reproductive Justice Task Force. And I offer you a short reflection submitted by another member and a longtime abortion rights activist, Linda Davis. The year 1992, the rally in DC was publicized in support of women's choice. When I called Susan Abbott, she knew immediately my purpose and said, "Of course I'll be with you." We were old hands at boarding those overnight pokey trains from South Station to Washington, often for the abolition of nuclear weapons. Liz Kyle would join us, as well as Lois Social from Temple Beth Shalom. The rail car would soon be crowded with women and signs and, in all caps, determination. The rail car, we would soon be friends with all those sisters from New Haven and Newark and Philadelphia, a great throng gathering on the mall surrounded by signs featuring coat hangers and lots of dogs sporting more significant pro-choice messages. There were thousands of people who were so committed and would have never believed that in 2023 we would still need to repeat that same protest with our daughters and granddaughters. Here ends Linda's reflection. When I was in the midst of my third trimester of pregnancy in the early months of 2020, I remember hearing encouraging birthing stories from two first parishioners who were mothers of 3, one who had been in labor 4 hours each with each child, no problem, and one whose first and second were born so fast that she was told to come to the hospital at the first contraction with the third, and good thing, because that baby was born in an hour. By the time I had heard these stories, I had already weathered over 3 months of early pregnancy nausea. I remember talking with a first parishioner in the parish hall in that fall of 2019 and realizing that if I did not sit down immediately, I was going to puke or pass out. I shuffled them into my office, pretending it would be best for our conversation to be private. And in my last trimester of pregnancy, my pelvic ligaments had grown too relaxed and too stretchy too soon, resulting in severe, sometimes debilitating pain. And then my own labor lasted about 26 hours, over 2 overnights, right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I remember being doubled over in labor pains in our living room, Cole doing his best to soothe me per the recommendations we got from our birthing class, and our dogs, Mango and Bishop, a couple feet away on the couch watching me. What is wrong with Mom? And my story is far from the worst I know. Stories of 48 hours in labor, terrifying emergency C-sections, babies born months too early, long-term injuries for infant and for birthing parent. I know some of these stories are yours too, for yourself and for your loved ones. And then there are the stories of catastrophic genetic problems and pregnancy abnormalities, dangerous miscarriages, stillbirths, the deaths of birthing parents. Globally, 800 people die every day due to pregnancy-related complications. In the United States, it's 2 or 3 people every day. A quarter of all pregnancies end in miscarriage, otherwise known as spontaneous abortion. And 40,000 American babies are stillbirth or die within the first year of their lives. There are so many stories of hard choices and tragic losses embedded in these statistics. I can't imagine, with my experience and with all these other experiences, carrying an unwanted or unviable pregnancy through birth. I don't want to imagine what would have happened to my loved ones who have had abortions for unwanted or unviable pregnancies if they hadn't had access to abortion services. And unfortunately, I don't have to imagine, do I? It's right in the news. So many tragic stories. So many of them preventable with access to contraceptives, abortion, and societal support. Euro-American demography researcher Dr. Diana Green Foster followed 1,000 women for a decade, comparing outcomes for mothers and their families if they were able to access a wanted abortion or not. This turnaway study showed that pregnant people who are unable to get a safe legal abortion and end up carrying the pregnancy to term experience long-term physical and economic harm. This is because America gives little support to pregnant people or new parents. Unlike almost every other nation in the world, we have no national paid parental leave, nor nationally subsidized early childhood care, nor health care for all. Our nation has vast economic disparities, with 1/3 of American parents struggling to afford diapers. A recent nationwide survey from the healthcare research group Commonwealth Funds showed that states where abortion is now moderately or severely restricted have 15% more prenatal maternity care deserts, counties without medical prenatal care, and 60% higher maternal and infant mortality rates compared to states where abortion is now still legal. These statistics are all worse for pregnant people of color. Euro-American Christian UU minister Reverend Scotty McLennan was the Dean for Religious Life at Stanford University and the inspiration for the Doonesbury comic strip character, Reverend Scott Sloan. Reverend McLellan wrote for our UU World, "There are strong religious grounds, historic and contemporary, to defend a woman's right to abortion. There's nothing explicitly said in the Bible about induced abortion, 0. There are large segments of the Judeo-Christian world that historically and currently see the embryo or fetus as potential human life, but not as fully human until birth or until some stage in fetal development well past conception, often not until a fetus could breathe on their own." Filipina-American writer Gia Tolentino explains, "For centuries, most Christians believed that human personhood began months into the long course of pregnancy. It was only in the 20th century that a dogmatic narrative in which every pregnancy is an iteration of the same static story of creation began both to shape American public policy and to occlude the reality of pregnancy as volatile and dangerous, as a process in which creation and destruction run in tandem. This newer narrative helped to erase an instinctive, long-held understanding that pregnancy does not begin with the presence of a child and only sometimes ends with one. I know that I'm preaching to the choir, literally and figuratively. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in freedom and equality. We believe that healthcare is a human right, and in the tenets of reproductive justice, that every person has the inherent right to choose whether to become a parent and the right to parent in safe and supportive communities. Though it's considered unusual in our dominant culture for spiritual and religious people to hold a pro-choice ethic, it's not unusual. Our own former ministerial intern, Reverend Molly Hausch-Gordon, is a co-plaintiff with a dozen other faith leaders in Missouri, suing the state for violating the constitutional establishment clause by enforcing a law banning abortion, which is against their faith. What do we do next as faithful Unitarian Universalists? Our national denomination challenges all congregations and congregants to dedicate ourselves to the tenets of reproductive justice, leverage privileges we might have for the movement, and follow the lead of those most impacted and marginalized by abortion bans. The UUA's Advocacy Office for LGBTQ+ and Reproductive Justice, Uplift Action, tells us we can commit to many different effective ways of supporting reproductive justice, from lower risk actions like donating to local and national abortion funds, getting trained as facilitators in our Whole Lives sex ed program, and offering spiritual care for reproductive justice activists and those impacted by reproductive restrictions. And then there are higher risk actions like volunteering at an abortion clinic, publicly advocating for legislative change, taking part in civil disobedience, and supporting travel networks for those seeking abortion services. Our denominational president, Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, shouted at a pro-Roe rally this summer, "We will fight for every single one of us and we will win, and we will not stop fighting until we win." Those who believe it is righteous to control a pregnant person's right to bodily autonomy have and will campaign for national bans on abortion and contraceptives, as we saw even yesterday in our nation's capital. And they may also campaign against expanding governmental support for pregnant people and families. So we need to be out there too, whatever way we can. As our member Linda said, we must continue the fight for reproductive justice with and for our daughters and granddaughters, our sisters and nieces, our siblings and nibblings, our children and grandchildren. For every person who could become pregnant and who wants to parent in a just society. I wonder if you'd be willing to sing with me here in the building and at home, a song I'm going to teach you right now. So sorry, you have to listen to me. Euro-American musician Abigail Bengson wrote this short piece in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. We will not be controlled. I am sovereign in my body. I am sovereign in my soul. So those of you who could or could have become pregnant, you can sing that with me. And if you aren't a person who could or could have become pregnant, you can sing along in solidarity. You will not be controlled. You are sovereign in your body. You are sovereign in your soul. We'll repeat that a few times. We will not be controlled. I am sovereign in my body. I am sovereign in my soul. We will not be controlled. I am sovereign in my body. I am sovereign in my soul. We will not we will not be controlled. I am sovereign in my body, I am sovereign in my soul. We will not be controlled. I'm sovereign in my body, I am sovereign in my soul. We will not be controlled. I am sovereign in my body, I am sovereign in my soul. May this be so. Blessed be and amen.
Remember Katie White? She jumped the fence that night. She ran away in tears. Your sister drank her beer. We were just 18. The older girls could be so mean. I was talking just to talk. You were still in shock. All I could think to say was everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. I'm on your side. I'm on your side. Are you feeling well? Are you going to tell? How long have you known? Did you tell him? Does he know? You knew there was something wrong just a few weeks along. You told him and he broke it off, and the money just won't cover the cost. All I could think to say is everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. I'm on your side. I'm on your side. No one has to know. Scars won't even show. At least that's what I've heard. No bigger than a baby bird. No bigger than a baby bird. Do you think God still sees me coming out of this twilight sleep? I'm not sure who I am, staring into my empty hands. But all I could think to say is everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
Thank you, Laura. As we near the close of our service, please know that all are welcome to our social hour in the parish hall and on Zoom. At Social Hour here in the building, you're strongly encouraged to learn more about our Green Congregations team's cookware collection and to connect with members of our Reproductive Justice Task Force. Again, if you're looking for spiritual support and effective action on reproductive justice, please check in with Tracy Zinner and be sure to look at our national denomination's Side with Love 30 Days of Love resources. Keep a careful eye out for emails from First Parish and follow us on social media so you can keep up with opportunities for connection for all ages throughout the week. I hope you've already marked your calendars for our Ready for a Change children's book group for adults. The first one is tomorrow at 5:30 with a focus on Black history. We also have our very own Mary Builder offering a Zoom Lane Lyceum Tuesday night at 7:30 about her latest book on the Constitution and English-American educator Eliza Harriet. Later this week, we have Lunch Bunch, we have our regular Zoom gatherings, Writing Escapes, Vespers, Meditation Ministry, and Creative Escapes. And this Saturday, our former minister, Reverend John Burens, will be the keynote speaker at an online Seminary for a Day program through the First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. Registration does close today, and the link is available in the bell notes. Next Sunday, our Sunday night book group is meeting, and our own Tad Staley will have his play, An Atheist in Hell, read by Needham Community Theater members at the Presbyterian Church. I feel like some like, oh, I could relate to that. Check your bell notes as well for a request from the Generic Ministry for men's winter coats and for information about the bereavement leave Susanna Whitman and I will be taking over the next 2 weeks. Susanna will be off this week, and we're grateful for the many volunteers who will staff the office while she's on leave. And we also have 2 special announcements from Elliot Jakowski, our congregational president.
As you may know, our congregation develops and implements a 5-year strategic plan approximately every 5 years. The last plan was created in 2015. Due to the pandemic, it has been unrealistic to create a new one. Since the last plan, our world has changed considerably. Now that life is somewhat more predictable and we are emerging from isolation, it is important for us to create the next strategic plan. This plan needs to address several significant questions. 1, how can we be relevant to a younger, more diverse constituency? 2, how can we continue to thrive as a congregation as church attendance declines at the national level? And 3, how can we continue to provide meaningful support and community to our members while adapting to the new realities? To this end, in response to a proposal from Amy Chikala, Tony Chikala, and Tad Staley, the Parish Committee has approved the creation of a strategic task force which will implement the process for congregational reflection on ministry and community engagement in the context of emergent social trends. This inquiry will provide valuable input into development of our ongoing plan. The task force will report its findings regularly to the Parish Committee and work to provide as much engagement and visibility as possible to the entire congregation. If you would like to learn more about this task force, which is recruiting members, or to contribute your ideas, please see Tad or Tony at coffee hour or contact them by email. Secondly, we very much request your response to the survey regarding masking in the sanctuary. We've had a good response so far, but we need many more to make this a valid survey. So thank you.
Thank you, Elliot, and thank you, Tad and Tony. We always extinguish our chalice here with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is, until we are all together again. Please join me from home or here in the building in saying those words written by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Elizabeth Sally Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing hymn, My Life Flows On, an Endless Song, has music from 19th century American Baptist minister Reverend Robert Wadsworth Lowry, and lyrics adapted by modern Euro-American singer-songwriter Pete Seeger and his friend Doris Plen. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing My Life Flows On, an Endless Song. The lyrics are in your orders of service and at number 108 in your gray hymnals.
My life flows on in endless song, above us lamentation. I hear the reel of far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
As we close our worship today, please take this prayer from the National Council of Jewish Women for Reproductive Sabbath with you as a benediction. May our country become a place of liberty and justice for all, and may our care for one another include care and respect for each other's right to good and affordable health care, including abortion care, and the right to live safely and securely as we follow our path of conscience and the God we do or do not believe in. Our service begins when our service ends. Blessed be and amen.